There was once a young man who carried within him a constant sense of restlessness. Though his family loved him, though he had a stable job, and though he lived in a place where nothing seemed lacking, his heart always felt empty. He would lie awake at night, staring into the darkness, asking silently, "Why do I never feel at peace? Why does happiness always seem to slip away, no matter how hard I try to hold on?" One day, in search of an answer, he set out on a journey. He walked through villages and towns, across rivers and valleys, seeking teachers, sages, and scholars. Each offered him words of wisdom, but none of them seemed to quench the thirst of his heart. Some told him to pray, others told him to work harder, others to accept his fate. But the more he tried, the more he felt like a bird trapped inside its own cage. At last, weary and discouraged, he arrived at a small monastery nestled deep in the mountains. It was simple, quiet, with nothing grand about it. There he met an old monk, sitting peacefully under a tree. His eyes were calm, and his smile was gentle, as though the very mountains and rivers flowed through him. The young man bowed and said, "Master, I have traveled far. I have read many books and sought many teachers, but peace still escapes me. Please, tell me what is the secret to happiness." The old monk looked at him for a long moment and simply replied, "Come, carry water with me." Confused but respectful, the young man followed. Together they carried buckets of water from the stream to the monastery. The path was steep, the buckets heavy. The young man's arms soon ached, and sweat ran down his face. He wondered silently, what has this got to do with happiness? When they reached the monastery, the old monk set down his buckets and said, "Do you feel the weight in your arms?" "Yes," the young man nodded. "Very much so," the monk smiled. "This is like your mind. You have been carrying too much expectations, fears, comparisons, regrets. And just like the water buckets, you cling to them as though they are yours to bear forever. But tell me, what happens the moment you set the buckets down?" The young man placed his buckets on the ground. Instantly, his arms felt light. He let out a long breath without realizing it. The old monk looked at him kindly. "That lightness, that is peace. Happiness is not found in adding more, but in learning when to let go." The words sank deeply into the young man's heart. For the first time, he realized that peace was not something he had to chase. It was something already within him, waiting to be uncovered. Once he loosened his grip, but the monk was not finished. He picked up one empty bucket and held it out. "This bucket is also your mind. When it is filled only with water from the outside, it becomes heavy. But when it is empty, it is free to hold the rain, to reflect the sky, to carry fresh water again and again. Do not fear emptiness. It is the space where new life can flow in." The young man bowed deeply, tears welling in his eyes. He finally understood. All his life he had filled himself with noise, possessions, achievements, and the need to be someone in the eyes of the world. Yet what he lacked was not more, but less. Not grasping, but releasing. Not becoming someone else, but simply being. From that day forward, he stayed in the monastery, practicing mindfulness in every step, every breath. He learned to notice when his mind began to cling, whether to praise or blame, joy or sorrow, gain or loss. Each time he remembered the monk's teaching, set the buckets down, and slowly the restlessness that once tormented him gave way to stillness. Years later, he returned to his village. People were surprised to see how different he had become. His eyes were calm, his presence soothing. They asked him, "What magic did you learn in the mountains?" He smiled, the same gentle smile the old monk once had, and replied, "No magic. I simply learned to stop carrying what was never mine to carry, and in letting go I found peace, the meaning." This story reminds us of something we often forget. Our suffering is not always because of the world, but because of the weight we refuse to put down. We carry resentments from the past, anxieties about the future, the endless need to be approved, and the fear of being not enough, and in doing so, we exhaust ourselves. The Buddha's teaching is simple but profound. Suffering is born from attachment. When we cling, we suffer. When we release, we are free. Letting go does not mean giving up on life. It means allowing life to flow without the chains of our expectations. So the next time you feel restless, anxious, or heavy-hearted, remember the buckets. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that I don't need to? What burden can I set down, even just for this breath? Because peace is not a distant place. It is not in the next achievement, the next relationship, or the next possession. It is here, in this very moment, waiting quietly for you to loosen your grip. And when you do, you may discover, as the young man did, that happiness was never far away. It was simply hidden beneath the weight you carried.